Okay, this video is a review of the second assignment that was posted for the first day of virtual learning, which is in BrainPop, and it's a video about the Ottoman Empire. What I asked you to do is to watch the movie and then fill in this worksheet that goes with it and also take the quiz. So I'm going to go through the answers on the worksheet, we'll go through the quiz questions together. This way everybody can still get full credit for this. Like I said in the previous video, I'm going to try my best to review everything with you, but usually I'll wait till the next day so you can get the assignment done and always go back, or if it was very confusing, you can wait till the next day to get some help for it. Alright, so you'll watch the video, but I'm going to go through and help you figure out how to complete the worksheet. It's a cause and effect. Now it says for each cause describe one or more of the effects that resulted from it. Okay, well, we've learned about the Ottomans. We saw some information about them in the Atlas activities in Active Classroom, but the video has a nice summary of them, and it also goes well beyond the time period that we're learning about. Don't worry, things about World War I and things that come later on, we're going to talk about those in the future. The first cause is the Ottomans taxed the people they've conquered by enslaving a percentage of their healthy male children. So it does mention that they were pretty fair to the people they conquered. They allowed people to practice their religion, but one of the worst things they did was take people's kids away and force them into military service. Now what's the effect? Well, children are taken and converted to Islam. They're taught how to speak Turkish, and then they are trained as soldiers in what are called janissaries. Okay, so I'm going to say children taken are converted to Islam, taught Turkish, and trained as soldiers and janissaries. Janissaries are what they call these elite soldiers. Some actually did go on to become wealthy, to become important people, and many Christians who were being forced to give up their children, of course, were opposed to this idea of a tax. Their kids would be taken away. Some rise to wealth and influence. Many Christian subjects oppose the tax. And it mentioned in the video, if you watched, one of the ways they did this was by hiding their sons or scarring their faces, so maybe they wouldn't be taken. But of course, nobody wants to give up their children. The second cause here, it says the Ottoman Empire conquers the walled city of Constantinople. We know that was important. When they did that, they brought an end to the reign of the Byzantine Empire. The city became the capital of the Ottoman Empire, and they renamed it Istanbul. Okay, so I'm going to say brought an end to the Byzantine Empire. The city was renamed Istanbul and became the Ottoman capital. Okay. And the last one is something that we'll be learning about later on that happens at the end of World War I. But it says the Ottoman Empire loses territories in southeastern Europe in the years before and after World War I. And eventually after World War I, the Ottoman Empire ceased to exist. It splits up into other territories. The modern-day country of Turkey is all that's left of the previous, or what used to be called the Ottoman Empire. But losing its territory, it, like I said, forces the Ottoman Empire to shrink, to break up into separate countries. There's conflict that will eventually lead to the outbreak of World War I. Okay, so I'm going to say Ottoman territory shrinks. That means gets smaller as it breaks up into separate countries. Conflicts arise as rival powers, they mention different countries are competing for control. As rival powers compete for control, which eventually leads to the outbreak of World War I. Okay, and the last section says, how did the Ottoman Empire contribute to the spread of art and culture? Well, their most famous ruler was that guy Suleiman the Magnificent. And during the time that he was in power, there were many beautiful mosques built, incredible artistic achievements. Even their government documents were beautiful works of art. So we're going to say that, in addition, many of their rulers encouraged trade, which means ideas and art are allowed to be shared and spread beyond the Ottoman controlled territories. So we'll mention Suleiman the Magnificent. He encouraged the building of mosques, Muslim houses of worship, and artistic embellishments, which means decorations of documents and household items. I'll add rulers, encouraged trade along the Silk Road, allowing art and ideas to travel far beyond Ottoman territory. Alright, there you have it. Remember, you can always pause this video if I was going too fast for you. Okay, I'm going to move over to the other assignment, which is a quiz. Now, if you did this already, because I put it in there as graded, you won't be able to retake it. But at least now you'll know the correct answers. So the first one says, which of the following roles did the Byzantine Empire occupy for Christian Europe? Was it a protector, a conqueror, a liberator, or a discoverer? Well, for a long time, the Byzantines stood in the way of Muslims from the Middle East trying to come over and take control of other parts of Europe. So protector would be your best choice there. 2 says, for the most part, the relationship between the Ottoman and the Byzantine Empire was marked by, how would you describe the relationship between those two empires? Was it an alliance against invaders, mutual hatred of Europe, cultural similarities, or rivalry over territory? Well, think about it. These two are fighting each other for control. They are enemies, so your best choice would be rivalry over territory. Which word best describes the government of the Ottoman Empire? Was it a democracy, a monarchy, a republic, or anarchy? Well, think about it. I talked about sultans being their rulers. It was one person who was essentially in charge. That would be closest to a monarchy. 4 says you're a Christian citizen in a newly conquered Ottoman vassal state, so an area that's now under the control of the Ottomans. Which of the following is most likely to happen? You are converted to Islam, your taxes rise, you were thrown in prison, or you get to vote. Now, some people did convert, but they didn't force people to become Muslim. They did allow people to continue their own faith. Didn't say that you would have rights as a citizen or that you'd be thrown in prison, but there's a good chance your taxes would rise, including maybe having your children taken away. Okay, 5, like Janissaries. So Janissaries is what they call these elite soldiers. Some of them were taken, some of them were enslaved people, some of them were taken as prisoners of war, others were children that came from conquered territories. But how are they similar to American soldiers? Are they forced into service? Pulled entirely from one religious group? They can rise to positions of great influence? Or they tend to join the armed forces while still children? Well, think about American soldiers today. They're not forced. It's a volunteer army. They're not all pulled from one religious group. If you're an American, doesn't matter if you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, you can be a soldier. And we don't take soldiers as children in our country. But if you are successful in the military, you can become an important person. You can go on to have a career in politics or even become president. Many of our most famous presidents had previously been military officers or people that served in the military. So C is your best choice here. They can rise to positions of great influence. Okay, 6. A tourist who wants to see the palace of Suleiman the Magnificent should buy a guide to which city? Where would Suleiman the Magnificent's palace be? Athens, Rome, Istanbul, or Vienna? One should jump out at you. Athens, remember, is in Greece. Rome is in Italy. Vienna is in Austria. Istanbul is in modern-day Turkey. This is the previous capital or former capital of the Ottoman Empire. 7. The Ottomans indirectly hastened the discovery of the New World by what? In other words, they kind of encouraged Europeans to go out and explore. Why? How did they do it? By taxing European trading activity related to the Silk Road, advancing technology of ship building and navigation, forcing Europeans out of their old territories, or funding explorers on their quests. Well, the thing they did that made people want to find a sea route to Asia was start to tax the trading activity that was related to the Silk Road. 8. Each of the following contributed to World War I except for what? Again, we're going to learn about this later, but A says the rise of nationalism, B, the expansion of Ottoman territory, C, the weakening of the Ottoman Empire, or D, competition for territory in Europe. Well, remember, all of these are making World War I happen except for one. We want the one that's not true. And the one that's not true is that there was an expansion of Ottoman territory. Remember, Ottoman territory was shrinking, and there was competition for control of that land. So this is the one that's not true. That's the correct answer. Okay, this is tough. It says place the following events in sequence. Osman I assumes power. Then there's the fall of Constantinople, the rise of Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, or World War I. Alright, the first thing, their very first ruler was Osman. So that should be first. So think about test-taking strategies. Right away you can eliminate any choices that don't start with A. So now we're already down to B or D. Let's see. What should be second here? If you don't remember, the fall of Constantinople happened in 1453. The rise of Mustafa Kemal Ataturk doesn't happen until the 1920s, and World War I was 1914 to 1918. So we should have A, B, D, C would be our best choice. And if you look, D's right here, A, B, D, C, that's our best answer. And the last question, which of the following nations formed out of the breakup of Ottoman territory after World War I? Japan, Russia, Syria, or Italy. So think about it. Many of the nations that are part of the Middle East today used to be under the control of the Ottoman Empire. There's only one Middle Eastern nation there. If you didn't know right away, it is Syria. And we got 10 out of 10. All right, you can do a dance at home. Hopefully this helped. Sorry if this one is longer. Those are the only assignments that you had to do for this, and then it should show when they're completed. I should be able to review that and see that it's been completed if I look at BrainPop. So make sure you have that done. And remember, send me a message if you have any questions. Okay? Have a good one.